And if you're celebrating, happy Thanksgiving from here at the Hot Lap. We are thankful for your likes, your comments, just watching our channel is more than enough. But let's get into the Yas Marina Abu Dhabi Grand Prix preview, the last race, the finale of the F1 2023 season, with everything pretty much resolved in terms of the championship, constructors and drivers. There is still a lot to play for. Now, as you can see, Pirelli have done a fantastic preview as usual. But before we get into that, let's have a look at what's going to be at stake. The main talking points coming into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And surely the main one is going to be Mercedes versus Ferrari. Yes, well, we're talking less than 10 points in it. Yep, 4 points in it. That's pretty much nothing. So whoever finishes ahead is going to take that second place. And it is important. There's a lot of money at stake, but also a lot of money, maybe not quite as much, but still significant to us, is the Aston Martin versus McLaren. Now, with Ferrari on form, maybe against Mercedes, it's very much McLaren on form towards the end of the season, but it's Aston Martin that has been pretty much closing that gap going into the last race. I'm thinking favouring McLaren though there. And last but not least, yes, Max Verstappen. This is going to be the last chance. Can anyone beat him? Because if not, he's going to set another record. It's been close. It was close-ish in Qatar, close in the USA, very close at Las Vegas. Let's hope. I'm thinking it potentially Ferrari, maybe a McLaren at the circuit, but it does have those tight corners, which McLaren was struggling with in Las Vegas. But their race pace was fairly hot, wasn't it? So I'm not arguing with that. So Abu Dhabi preview. Let's get into those headlines. We'll be looking, obviously, at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We're looking at the main storylines. We'll be looking at Ferrari, potentially favourites, according to some people. Practice rookies, yep, a lot of rookies coming up in the practice session. And Toto hopeful, though, despite a lot of people pointing towards Ferrari for that second place. So here is the Pirelli, as you can see. And let's get into the actual Pirelli preview. Bit of alliteration there. Yes, the head of the track has basically said we go lights out from Las Vegas to Abu Dhabi in just a few days. And he said the track is modified in 2021 to make it faster, more flowing, which has created extra opportunities. And doesn't Lewis Hamilton know it from that 2021 season? Oh dear. But yes, for some. And it says Yas Marina is on the lower end of the scale when it comes to tyre demands. Now, despite it says vertical loads on the front axle in particular, as a result, they're selecting the 3 softest compounds. And there will also be a test day on Tuesday. When you can look at here, I mean, you got traction 4, asphalt 4 out of 5, abrasion 3, track evolution quite high there 4, with obviously the maximum being 5, tyre stress in the middle, braking quite hard, lateral 3 and downforce 3. Not too bad on the tyres. It's no Silverstone, put it that way, or Qatar even this year. But it said the tyres on the track. Now, for the last race of the season, the nominated tyres are the C3, the C4 and the C5. Nearly all drivers have started last year's Abu Dhabi on medium tyres. And the top 3 finishes were Max Verstappen, Leclerc and then Sergio Perez. If you remember, Mercedes had an absolutely horrendous race where they could have clinched Ferrari for second in the championship. Will they get their revenge? And the Yas Marina consists of 16 corners as well as some faster sections, including a 1.2 kilometre straight between turns 5 and 6. And the track modifications that took place shortened it somewhat to 5.28 kilometres as well, making it faster, not just in terms of time, but overall speed. Now, Hamilton is the most successful driver with 5 wins at Abu Dhabi, followed by Verstappen and then Vettel, who are on 3 wins apiece. Mercedes and Red Bull, are the most successful teams here with 6 wins each. But what are those talking points coming into the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? Well, we've mentioned a few of them, but here we go, a bit more. Is Sky Sports have got an article saying what's left to fight for in 2023, and they basically say Mercedes versus Ferrari, McLaren against Aston Martin are some of these key battles going into that last race. Watch every session with Sky. I'm sure some of you will. We will. So both Formula 1 championships, as we know, have wrapped up quite a while ago. And normally it's a driver's final race for the F1 or a team that they're currently not going. So unless Logan Sargent loses his seat in Williams, we already know what's happened. We already know what's going to be happening to that driver market, and not much. So instead, it says the attention turns to the fights between Red Bull and Max Verstappen in both championships, where, as we know, that's been resolved, but prize money is at stake. Significantly, Mercedes versus Ferrari. Now, underlying Red Bull's absolute dominance is the Mercedes versus Ferrari fight, which has been really, really close. And Ferrari head to Abu Dhabi in a fight for what is a distant, though, second place in that Constructors' Championship. This is the second consecutive season they've been fighting for second, and only 4 points separates them. Now, Mercedes' advantage over their Italian rivals was 56 points come August. So Ferrari have got themselves a really, really good catch-up, and I don't think anyone would have given them the chance to catch Mercedes in the middle of the season. Everyone thought Mercedes, it's second, it's pretty much a given. Now, it's a small consolation for the team, but it could be worth around $10 million. Not too sure what that's in pounds. And F1 team's end of season prize money allocation, it's not publicly disclosed, but it's based on their finishing position, as we know, in that Constructors' Championship, and not the drivers. Now, only the champions in 6th place Alpine are guaranteed to finish in those places. As you can see, the other standings here, obviously Red Bull, absolute more than double the points of anyone else. Mercedes on a 392, Ferrari on a 388. Then we go down 100 points to McLaren on 284, Aston Martin on 273, just 11 points behind. Then you've got Alpine on 120, Williams on 28. I think Williams are probably... I think Williams are going to stay 7th. It's going to need a really solid weekend from AlphaTauri to score points and and to score higher than Williams, and significantly so. In terms of Alfa Romeo and Haas, I imagine they both might even struggle to get in the points. I think that standings is going to be somewhat the same. We'll get into Aston Martin and McLaren in a bit, but I do think McLaren are staying where they are as well. I just think they're too strong, unless they have a really, really funny weekend. And here it goes. McLaren remain strong favourites, Sky saying, for 4th, but their difficult outing in Las Vegas has given an opening to Aston Martin, who finished 5th and 9th respectively last weekend. An outside shot, it says, of getting that point, with McLaren's advantage being a bit more comfortable than Mercedes on 11 points. Williams own look well set for 7th, it says, in what would be their best placing since 2017. Maybe a massive congratulations to Williams. Now, 8th place AlphaTauri would need to score at least 7 points to overhaul them, a total the Red Bull sister team haven't achieved at any race since June 2022. AlphaTauri have in turn a useful 5-point cushion over 9th place Alfa Romeo, whose advantage over Haas, who have scored just who've only scored a solitary point in the last 12 events, and their gap is 4 points. I can't see that changing anyway. And it also goes into what qualifying heads-to-heads remain to be settled. So 1 qualifying hour left this Saturday, and just 2 teammate heads-to-heads are to be settled. Now we've got Mercedes. George Russell has a chance to tie with Lewis this season. They are, I think, to be, 11 apiece, pretty much. I believe we'll get into that in a second. And for the second, while the situation at AlphaTauri, it says, between Tsunoda and Ricciardo will be settled one way or another in their 7th full race as teammates. So Red Bull 19-2 domination. Mercedes 11 for Hamilton, 10 for Russell. Ferrari 14 for Leclerc, 7 for Sainz. McLaren 15-6 in Norris's favour. Aston Martin, surprise, surprise, 18 Alonso to 3 Stroll. Alpine 13 for Gasly, 8 for Ocon. I mean, Gasly's been so solid, hasn't he, since he's come to Alpine. Williams, well, that's a given. That's the worst one, really, 20-0. AlphaTauri 3-3 for Tsunoda and Ricciardo. Alfa Romeo 15-6 in favour of Bottas. Last but not least, Magnussen on 7, Hülkenberg on 14. And it says competitive pride at stake also in that driver's standing. The quirk of the F1 Drivers' Championship is that while finishing first means absolutely everything, there's little significance to the other 19 finishing points. This season, 2nd and 3rd place at drivers do join the world champion in receiving a trophy. which this year takes place in Baku on December the 8th. And the results of the Vegas confirmed Perez as essentially the runner-up compared to Hamilton. But behind third, where no prize money is on offer, all trophies, it's all about personal pride. I mean, we've got Spaniards Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso are tied on 200 points apiece. But with Sainz on the countback ahead because Sainz has won a race, Alonso didn't. That Monaco miss, let's say, being even more traumatic, I think, for Aston Martin. McLaren's Lando Norris, whose best career F1 Championship place is 6th, is 5 points back. And Leclerc is 12 points back as well, behind, obviously, that bunch. Inter-team bragging rights, it goes on as well. Meanwhile, will be at stake for 11th and 12th places. So Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon are separated, despite that massive qualifying deficit that Ocon has to Gasly. They're separated by just 4 points. And this is every full-time driver has already scored points this year too, something that doesn't normally happen in a season. So PlanetF1.com by Luke Murphy is saying why Ferrari could steal the runner-up spot from Mercedes. It says the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is the final chance for anyone to inflict that dent in Red Bull's now unassailable and kind of embarrassing double lead. Now, the top three of the Drivers' Championships, as we know, have been decided. Now, with a few to settle in the final race, they're taking you through the teams. So, it says, has the circuit changed for 2023? Well, as we know, having been introduced in 2009, yep, the year of Brawn, the Yas Marina circuit has been one of the more critiqued additions, let's say, to the schedule, particularly with the spotlight often being the season finale. And most people, I think it's just an average track, and I don't think anyone in terms of the track gets too excited about it. If you took away the fact that it has, decided some championships, it's kind of like meh. I don't think people dislike it, but I don't think people get that excited about it. But anyway, it goes, the latest iteration brought in for 2021 appears to be the best solution. 2 of the intricate chicanes were removed and additional corners were reprofiled. Now, whilst the track has been left alone since then, the 23 race will be another chance for F1 fans to gauge where everything is at. Now, the anti-clockwise, it has 16 turns in its current configuration, consisting mainly of those low and medium speed corners and those high-speed straights. Now, after one of the shortest runs to turn 1 on the calendar, the forgiving left-hander feeds into the straight, and we've got that turn 5 hairpin, that famous, I think, that turn 5 hairpin, with obviously after that 2 long straights. So is it going to talk? So who is expected to do well? Well, here we go. With the Abu Dhabi circuit now having a healthier mix of long straights, high speed and low speed, the ever-efficient Red Bull is positioned to pretty much do very well. Now, the biggest battle in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes v Ferrari, will be hotly contested. Now, it says the Grand Prix, and this is the interesting bit, where Ferrari have generally had better qualifying results, have been on rear limited circuits. That's where there are lots of hard braking zones, slow tight corners and those hard acceleration zones. Abu Dhabi is another such track, and Ferrari will be able to get more performances from their cars in qualifying trim, less painful tyre wear, excuse me, may also help that Ferrari. They had really good tyre wear, better than Red Bull in Las Vegas. And after their disappointing trip to Mercedes, it says, to Vegas, Mercedes are aiming to fend off a resurgent Ferrari, and very much a resurgent Ferrari. They could have won Las Vegas, let's be fair. And Mercedes struggled in qualifying. The Ferrari team have target podium finishes in Abu Dhabi, which will require more of the downforce than they are able to generate from the car. Now, Yas Marina circuit hadn't previously earmarked as a venue of success for the German team, and their weekend hopes may come down to whether they can set up what is a very difficult car. Now, an enforced driver swap in FP1 will affect the preparation of both teams, Leclerc and Hamilton, making way for the rookies. We'll get into that. But both teams should be able to recover. Now, after appearing to be a foregone conclusion a couple of races ago, we've also got that McLaren versus Aston Martin battle. It says, which is just 11 points in it. Yeah, I still think that's going to be McLaren all the way. So that's pretty much Ferrari favourites. Let's get into our practice rookie. Hamilton and Verstappen are among the top names to miss that Abu Dhabi first practices. Let's have a look. We've got Red Bull, Isaac Hadjar and Jake Dennis. Yeah, neither Verstappen or Perez, I think that's a first, isn't it, will be competing in FP1. So We've also got Mercedes, Frederic Vesti. He's taken Hamilton's cockpit, having driven George Russell's car in Mexico City. We've got Ferrari's Robert Schwartzman. He was at the wheel of Carlos Sainz cars at the Dutch Grand Prix and was last of those with a lap time on the board. He also drove the Abu Dhabi FP1 last year. We've got Pato O'Ward, the IndyCar driver from McLaren. First practice, and it's his second F1 outing on a race weekend. Aston Martin's Felipe Drugovich, the man that many hoped would replace Lance Stroll. Alpine's Jack Doohan. Williams' Zach O'Sullivan as well. But AlphaTauri have no rookie drivers. They're the only team to complete the mandatory rookie requirements after Lawson drove Ricciardo's car for 5 weekends. And then Alfa Romeo is Theo Pourchaire. Haas, Oliver Behrman. And it says here, Oliver Behrman was arguably the most impressive of the 5 rookies he drove in Mexico City. He finished 15th and got plenty of praise from Haas. The 18-year-old Brit replaces Hulkenberg for the first practice session. Let's see how they do. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Are they going to go set up, or are they going to let them go balls to the wall, so to speak, because it is the last practice session? Now, Toto Wolff hopes for a podium finale at Abu Dhabi. How are Mercedes going to be doing? So after Brazil's woes were followed up by missed chances, it says here on Sky Sports in Las Vegas, I think it is. I think Hamilton, had it not been for the safety car, would have potentially been well in the mix. If you remember, at the time, he was on hard tyres and ahead of Perez. Now, he's hopeful for the team, Toto that is, that they'll have the pace to return to that podium at this weekend's season-ending Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and their aim is to hold off Ferrari for that second place. Now, Mercedes' advantage over the Italian team, as we know, has just come down and down and down over the last couple of races. And Hamilton, who finished 7th, twice lost ground in unfortunate collisions with George Russell, and saw 4th place turned into 8th by a 5-second penalty. Did poor George. Ferrari, as we know, finished 2nd. Could have been first with Leclerc, but it was 2nd on that fantastic last lap overtake on Perez, and 6th with Sainz, meaning they outscored Mercedes by a significant 16 points to bring themselves into that striking distance. And he said, sad to say, yet another time we have no pace, we had the pace, but just no result. Toto said George, after the incident with Verstappen, where he got the penalty, was pretty much game over. The car had the pace at the front, maybe not to challenge Max, but behind, it is what it is. Now in Abu Dhabi, Wolff said, we have seen pace-ish today. I think we can hopefully recover and score solid podiums. I think, yeah, it's going to be quite open. I still think Ferrari going in will potentially have the advantage, at least in qualifying. What's going to be really interesting, I think, is we know how close those cars are. I think it's going to come down to whether Mercedes can get the setup right for that really, really awkward car for the last time this year. Let's hope they get rid of it and have a much more competitive car next year for 2024. So race weekend timings. So practice 1 is on Friday the 24th, 9:30 to 10:30 UK time. Practice 2 is at 1 till 2. Interesting, practice 1 I think will be pretty much exclusively in the daytime, where practice 2 is going to be in the dark. Practice 3 on Saturday on the 25th, 10:30 to 11:30. Qualifying on Saturday the 25th is 2 till 3, and the race lights out at 1 o'clock for a race that's going to start in the day and end at night. I really like that for Abu Dhabi. Anyway, this has been the Hot Lap. I need to get a drink because I feel like I'll be wanting to cough the last 5 minutes. We will speak to you next time. Like and subscribe if you want. We really appreciate it. Just watching, to be fair, is a massive thumbs up for us. See you next time.